Hi guys, welcome to my house here in Derbyshire. It's been a long time since I made a video, but I've been given a really nice piece of wood that I thought, you know, I need to do something special with this, so I'm trying to do as little waste as possible. So hopefully you'll see that. Okay guys, so here's the idea that I'm going for. It's the shaded area here would normally be waste. This is a bowl blank, it's circular as you can see, and this is the end view, this is the side view, and you can see here the shaded area, which is normally waste as I said, but I'm going to try and get something out of that. So this area here is the target, so let's have a look at the section through there and then the section through there. So the first section I'm going to try and turn a torus out of. This is again the side view of the circular piece, and this is that section AA. So my idea is that I'm going to first of all hollow that area out and then take away the waste from the outside. But obviously this area here is going to be extra waste to give me access for the tools to come in and to cut this out. Then my idea is to get as much out of the remaining part of it as possible. Okay, so to the shed. Okay guys, well it's been a while since you were last in here. There's been some changes. I've built myself a new lathe from an old one. This is an old Union Jubilee. I cut the base off it and welded a new piece of base steel on there so it would fasten on my bench. So I've turned it from a freestanding lathe into a bench lathe. Whilst I was doing that, I wanted a bit more throw in the throat here, so a bit more height between the centre spindle and the bed. So I lowered this down. I drilled some new holes in the plate here and threaded those to bolt it on. The trouble with that is I had to also extend the height of the tailstock, so I got some big lumps of steel and milled those out to fit on there to bring the height up to accuracy. And also I had to make some new rests because the old rests simply weren't long enough because they were designed to work at the old height. So painted everything white just to make life a bit easier to see. Put some new lighting in. I've got some of these flat panel LED lights that you see in offices. They really give a nice even light. And I've also got some extra lighting, again LEDs, but on this case spots, just to light into the end of bowls and to give me a little bit more light at the back edge here. Trouble is, the piece that I'm going to be turning here that you saw in that little PowerPoint presentation there is actually too big even for this, so I'm going to have to move the bed back, come up with some way of supporting it and locking it down tightly in order to give me enough room to get this thing in. So here it is. This is the piece of wood that was donated to me. It's quite large. I'll get the ruler on it in a second here. So, well, it's bigger than that ruler, so it's more than 12 inches across. So for you guys in the States, let's do it in inches first. It's 15 inches across and it's 6.5 inches deep. So let's do that in metric. So that's 30, almost 39, 38.6, 38.7, and it's 17 centimeters across that way. So it's quite large. What I've done is I've marked the center, and I then drew a circle with my calipers, and then I used a router to give myself something to get hold of, because I wanted to use my largest jaws that I can use to start with, because it's such a big heavy piece. Okay guys, so to accommodate that large piece of wood I need to move the bed of the lathe away from the head to give it room to spin. So I'm going to have to make some pieces of steel to act as hold downs for the bed. So this is my little vertical miller, just a little hobby thing. So I'm just going to knock up some pieces of steel for that. I'll show you how I do it. Okay, so just drilling a 6mm hole through it now, just to put some screws through to hold the lathe down. I'll show you the finished article when I get there. Okay, so here it is. Obviously it's going to go in the bottom part, won't fit in this top part between these rails, but it will fit between the bottom rails, or the bend in the bottom of the lathe bed. So 2 6mm holes, countersunk, just some normal screws because I've got a wooden bench here. Gives me a nice flat surface, not going to catch me on anything, and that'll hold the bed down because it's not connected to the head, but obviously everything's connected to the bench. We'll see how we go. There it is in position, slides on those bottom rails, it's just clear of the bench, and I can use that now to screw the whole lathe bed down. And then in the back end here I've got 2 slots there where I'm going to use these bolts, which have got a good thread on them, and I'll bolt the back down with those. Okay, so it's all screwed down now and pretty well sound. I'll only use this just to hold it on there for safety whilst I get the blank rounded off and flattened off before I start actually turning anything serious into it. Okay, so here's the setup. I've got my bowl rest, which is the only thing I've got really that will come out and go round the face of this. Everything's nice and tight and solid, so it's all nice and solid. The blank is very out of true. It's quite old, so obviously it's shrunk across the grain and not so much on the end grain. So, you know, not much cut there, quite a lot of cut there. Not much cut there, and quite a lot of cut there. As you come round the other side, there's nothing. There's actually nothing there. So it is centred though, top to bottom, from there to there is a centre that I could get. It's just that the blank isn't very true, shall we say. But it's on, everything's nice and tight, and I'll carry on turning that until I get it trued up. I'll come back to you then. Okay, so here we are, I've drawn a line on, and you can see just how out it is. Trying to do here is I'm just trying to get a feel for what this wood's cutting like. It's very dry, it's very grabby as you've just seen, and I'm just trying to find a good cut on it. Also I'll be able to see what the surface looks like once I've done one of those cuts. Too bad. There's a bit of tear out here. After sharpen my tool, you can see I've been going in hard here, but that's how out of true it is. Very. So let's see what the total diameter is going to be around once it's all done. It's going to be about 36 centimetres, which is just 14¼ inches. Okay guys, so here we are, second session. The first session, you see I managed to get it round. It's a lot more balanced now. It's not completely round, there's still a little bit of the original outer skin there. But you can see where I'm working on this corner now. This is where I'm going to turn the Torus from. Like that now. See, there's still a little bit of shake, it's still not balanced. This piece is more dense on one side than the other, but I'm only turning slowly. Just using the wing here as like a planing cut to give myself a smooth surface to work from. just doing a planing cut now. Okay, so I'd had enough of it shaking its head as bad as it was because of the unbalanced nature of this piece of wood. So what I did was I took it off the pulley at the back there, so there's no belt feeding it, and just let it free spin. Found the heavy point and put a counterweight on. So it's got a screw that's going right down into the wood, and bit of a light, and that's on there really solid, and it's not shaking anymore. Very nice and true. We can get some decent work done now. Because of that vibration, it's still not quite round. It's not far off. We'll just touch it. You can hear it catching. Here it's a lot better. It's still missing a little bit. You stop it after doing that, and you can see the gaps. See, it's not too bad all the way around here. Then it suddenly fades out. So this is low. This is high. So obviously that was the eccentricity that was pushing and doing the vibration on it. And here, where you can see I've not quite turned off yet, you can see that it's there's a big gap there. Nothing. So that's a high point. Again, that means that the opposite side was heavy, so it was pulling out to me, so it was eccentric to the opposite side. So I've got to turn this off now till it's as level as possible. Then I can measure up and start cutting the torus. What I'm actually doing is watching the horizon in the top of the cut. I'm not looking here, I'm looking at the top of the cut. Done there, I've just eyeballed it, I'm not quite there yet. I'm going to cut down so that I've got the same distance down here as I have across, the same distance down in here as I've got across here. So the depth of this cut eventually will be the same depth between there and there. So I'll have a quarter of the radius to turn, I'll have another quarter radius there, another quarter radius into the inner face. So I've got to do the same trick now here. I'm going to cut into there, but I need to move this rest first. So what I've actually done is I've changed the rest to this offset rest, so there's not a lot on this side. There's the central bar. It's got a long tail coming out this side. It lets me get in to the centre and still have a lot to work with here. So I'm going to just cut into here now and just give myself a groove to delimit where I'm working to. See if I can work around my camera. There we go. So that now delimits, stop it. That now delimits the area that's going to become the torus. Okay, so both these holes, these slots are down to the same depth as we have, about halfway round. So in effect I can now round this almost completely, just that last quarter that I'll then have to get to, and I have to take a little bit more meat out of it, but both sides to be able to get at that, but I want to hollow it before I turn it off, obviously. Just going to knock this corner off. So I'm just going to get that the right radius, and then I can work on the others. I might make myself a template just to make sure that that's the correct radius. Otherwise I'll get kind of a square, squat toroid, and I don't want that. I want a nice circular cross section to it. Okay guys, so I just nipped into the garage. I got a small piece of 5mm MDF, got offcuts of these little thin boards from various jobs. I always keep a few of these little offcuts behind to make these little kind of things. So this is going to go on here, and you can see this is still proud. You take some more off this corner, and that'll give me the ability to sort of work that circle. That's a 6.5 centimetre circle. So here's my little gauge. That's getting pretty close now. I can't really rock it that much. When it was proud, I could actually rock it backwards and forwards. You can see as I go around onto the surface here, which isn't round, it lifts away. So that'll do for now. Not looking too bad. Not a lot of tear out. Considering I was scraping, it wasn't too bad. So now move the camera position, because it's this quadrant I'm going to work on next. So I want this to be able to round down into that area. So I've got to take this corner off down to the depth of that groove that I've already cut. I need to take this corner off, and you'll be able to see as I do that, I'll be able to trace that round into there. So I'll get into that. Get it clicking as it gets thin. That's a clue for later on, that when I'm cutting the inside of this and making the inside of this quite thin, I'll be able to recognise that sound. Might have to put a glove on because the The shavings coming off there are very hot and it's cooking the side of my hand. But we'll see how I get on. I don't want to get rid of too much of this meat because that'll restrict my design when I come to make the bowl. See, I'm starting to refine the shape, but now what I could really do with using is, this is a skew, and I could cut with a skew, but I'm just going to use it as a scraper for now. I always want to turn this and start using it as a skew. Yeah, it's catching now. Yeah, you get those diggings. Don't mind demonstrating that there because that surface isn't going to be there when we finish. Dig. What I was doing was rolling this round into this gap, and it wants to turn into a skew, but you're kind of at the wrong angle, so you get diggings. Turn it all the way past that point, though, you can go to using it as a skew. Okay, so you can see I've cut into here now, cut into here. This is my radius test. Then it's good there, it's good there. See, it's a little bit out there. I think these two radiuses are a little bit too far apart. That one's okay as well, but again, well, that one's not too bad. Yeah, I think that what's going to happen is that either this outside one, but I don't know, it's good with this one, so probably this inside one, the radius needs to come completely this way a bit, so this whole thing needs to come this way a bit, just to get rid of that gap. But hey, doesn't need to be perfectly round, just needs to look round. Okay, so here it is. There's the torus, just forming now. Obviously you've just got the back quarter, which is connecting it to the piece. There's a couple of little cracks actually I have to keep my eye on, but it's looking pretty good. I've just given this a quick sand. There's a catch here, but because of the design I'm going to put in, I'm going to put lots of holes in it. I'll pick one of those. I'll pick this to make a little string of holes through it so you won't see it, because I don't want to go too much more on the sanding. All I've got to do now is to decide where I'm going to go in to this to hollow it out. What I like to do usually is to go in from the side here, so I'll probably go in that way. Okay, so here it is on the inside, so there's the torus. You can see there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a slot in about here. So let's just mark that. Got the lathe going backwards at the moment. Maybe a bit wider. So that area going to be the access point for the slot. Okay, so I'm going to cut in there and hollow this out. Okay, so I've moved the tailstock away, get it out of the way completely, and I've been working down the hole there, just gently taking it out, bit by bit, taking my time. I'll show you that. Just a passing tool. Case of being patient, doing small cuts, eventually it'll hollow out. So patience is the key. Out comes the sawdust. I'll back a lot of that out before I go again. You can see when it gets full it gets a bit catchy, just got to be a bit loose, let it happen, and again you can see how full it gets because it's not got an awful lot of space to let it out, so just wind it slowly, it'll gradually just come out on its own. So there we go, and I'll keep doing that till it's hollow. Come back to you then. Okay, so we're a little bit further on now. I've been using my smaller gouge to just go in there and clear out the inside. Got a couple of gauges here just to see how thick it is, and this one's okay for doing this side, working out how thick that is, and you can see it's still quite thick. And I've got this one which I can use to see how thick the back is. And that's about the same actually, so we're about the same thickness all the way around at the moment. It's about 9 to 10 mil thick. So I'm just going to carry on hollowing, get it a bit thinner. Okay, so I've got this tool, which is just a bent piece of EN8 that's been turned into a scraper, about a 45-degree scraper. And I'm just going to work my way into this top corner of the Torus. The tools I've been using. This one lets me do the face, so this one lets me get into this corner. It's only a bent piece of metal that's been ground. So these are all EN8 that I'm using here. This is a smaller diameter bar, 5mm bar. Lets me get in around here, and I can get right across with that. And then just using a normal 1/4 inch bowl gouge with a fairly standard grind on it, just to hollow the rest out. Okay, the other thing I've done is I've just drilled some holes here which are going to be part of the final design, and these holes let me see how thick The wall is at various points around. You can see I can make out the depth, so I can work out how deep the cuts are at the moment. That way I can try and keep the wall thickness about even. Still working through the slot. Okay, it's getting quite thin now, but I've got to do a bit more. It needs to get down to about 3mm thick, so I'll just do a bit more. So that may have sounded like I was going quite hard. In effect I was, but this is so hard that I took less than 1mm off then, and it's still at about 4.5, maybe 5mm. So I need to keep going on that. Okay, so I've cut into that side. I just need to cut into here now. Give myself a little bit more room so I can just do that last part of that quadrant. I've got half the quadrant done from the other side. I'm just doing this half of the quadrant now. So I'm just going to use a parting tool just to give myself a little bit more space. Again, nice and gentle, no rush. So I'm just going to refine this shape on the inside here and then cut it off. Okay, so I'm at the point now where I'm ready to turn this off. So I'm just going in here now and just going a little bit beyond where I need to be, and then I'll cut off here with the rest out here, and so I'll be able to catch it as it comes off. So I'm deeper than I need to be now, so if I cut in here I'll meet that cut. Need a different rest on, move things around, get in here and do a cut just to cut that off. Okay, so I'm going to turn this off now, and again I'm just going to use a parting tool. Just going to use my parting tool to do that, and I'm just going to go in at an angle like we saw earlier. More light on the job there. And what I'm listening for now when I do this is for it to start to sound like cardboard. This very thin sound. But as I'm cutting in the back. Let's get my speed going. Starting to go now. Yeah, there's a little bit just here now where I'm starting to see daylight. Rolls off. Nice and gentle, no damage anywhere other than what I've done to it. You can see this, I reinforced a little bit, got a bit thin there, so I've reinforced it. That'll all get sanded off, and this corner that I've got here now, that'll get sanded off as well. Okay, so I got this off and had the little square corner on the inside where obviously I couldn't turn that off from the way it was on. So what I've done is I've made this jig. Well, actually it's part of an old jig. This jig was made up about a year ago to make architraving for portholes. A friend of mine was restoring a barge, and he needed some oak architraving making, so I made this jig to do that. Now what I've done is I've just roughly screwed on some more ply on the outside, closed it up tight, spun it up and cut the inside of these with a rough arc, and then clamped it up, got it centered, just tapped it in and got it centered, and now it's spinning round. It makes a lot of air. And I drew a pencil line on it as I was getting it level, just to see where the eccentricity was, and as I'm sanding I can use this line just to steer clear of these, because you can't see these when it's spinning, but I can see this line, so that makes it so, you know, I won't sand the other side of that line there. So that gives me a little bit of leeway, because there's a good centimetre or so just the other side of that before you get involved with those pieces. So that's where we are. I'll carry on sanding that, get it refined, get all these marks out of it, maybe come back in with a tool just to finish that off, although it is getting quite thin, and then I'll work my way up through the grits, and then I'll start putting some designs into it. So there's the jig empty. Bit of a nasty contraption. I've done the first sanding. This is 180 grit. I've just sanded it down, got all the marks out of it, got marks out the outside. Remember, this is where it was being held, so it was actually quite difficult to sand off on the piece. So now what I've got to do is I've got to carry on with these holes that were used to judge the depth of the walls. I'm going to carry on with those and make the design that I want. So when I put lights in there, you get the kind of design around the edge. That's the plan. Just remounted it. I'm going to start drilling holes now. Nothing special, it's just a straightforward like 6mm bit for doing some of the larger holes. Maybe I'll put one or two bigger ones in, but for now this will do. And I'm just going to pick a spot and just drill. So where I slow down, I just let pulse so it cuts a nice clean hole, doesn't burst out inside either, you know, and I'll put a few together here. What I'm always trying to do is stay at 90 degrees to the surface, so I'm pushing straight down to the surface so it doesn't want to wander off, and it makes again a nice clean cut. So I'll put a few of them in and just work my way around. Then I'll flip the thing over and do some more on the other side. And I'll wait for this to come round here before I bother doing any on the inside face. That'll make it a bit easier, you see. I'll just work my way around. Okay, so you can see I've been drilling lots of holes in here. I've got 1.5mm drill in here. I've got 1.5mm drill in here. and what you end up with is something that looks like this. And then I'm going to move to my multi-tool, my little Dremel type tool. This has got a 1mm drill in it, and with this I can then start drilling lots more holes. And so on. So I'll be doing that for the next hour or so. Okay, so I've finished drilling lots of holes now, literally thousands of them. And obviously as you drill through each hole, you burst a little bit of wood out from the inside face. Even if you go really slowly, you'll still cause a little bit of splintering. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run a tool around the inside of here, just to clean up that inside face. Then I've got a little tool I can put a little bit of abranet on, these little tiny patches, and then I'll just sand the inside of it gently. Doesn't need to be particularly good inside, no one's ever going to see it. So as you can tell, it's not very well set, but I'm just letting this run on the inside face to clean away most of the burrs. No pressure here, just letting it run. So that's cleaned it up quite nicely. Let's have a look. That's the inside. It's cleaned up quite well. You see that where it had a break out there? You don't see that. It's just a matter of sanding it up now, making it look nice. Should look nice once the lights are inside it. Okay, so here it is. No finish on it yet, of course. And no lights in it yet, of course. But okay, so I've just mounted this back up on here now. I'm just going to use another one of my tools to try and sand some of the inside of it. It's just over here. So here it is. It's just literally a straight bar with a ball that's all smoothed off around it. And what I can do with this is I can take a fairly rough piece of abranet, old bit of abranet, not particularly sharp, and I can wrap it round. You can see on here I've actually had some gaffer tape on it in the past, but I found what I can do is I can wrap that round, just leave it proud of the end, wrap that round tight here, and I can hold on to this, and that actually is still within where the rest is, and actually put that in there and sand the inside of this surface with this as it flaps down, and I can rotate it to make that do that, so I can, you know, offer different parts of the abranet to the surface, and I can sand the inside. So this is going to be fairly rough. This is an old piece of 80 grit, and just going to run that round. It's not very fast, doesn't need to be, I'm only sanding, and I can sand the inside surface. You might not be able to see it on the camera, but I can see little bits coming off the inside face. Okay, I can rotate it to offer different parts of the sanding material up to the edge. So slow, there's no force, you know, but the bits are coming out. Now what I found I needed to do was to reverse it as well, but to reverse it I'm going to move I rest to the opposite side. So here we go, we've just got this now, turn some extra lights on. I've just reversed this now, so I'm going to spin this in the opposite direction. Give you a better view. Just going to spin that in the opposite direction, and then we can get in here and sand in the opposite direction. You can see in there where I'm going to be sanding. We'll just be sanding that inside face. Okay, you may notice then one of the things I did then was I pushed the Abronet further up, and what that does is that exposes a new sanding surface. So I was here originally sanding on this point, pushed it up, you get a bit more, and you keep rotating. Always rotate so it tries to tighten your wrap up. Yeah, I've got to watch myself here. It's not going very fast, so it'll just give me a crack of it if I caught it. So just watch that angle so that I don't get too close to the rotating jig, because that will just give you a bruised knuckle. Okay, so there we go. So that's pretty much finished now. I'm going to put some finish on it. The outside here is sanded up to 600 grit. So here it is. I've just oiled it. Just use lemon oil on it. Okay guys, part 2. I'm going to start working on this again. So I've got to turn this to be the base of the bowl, and to put a rebate in here to take the jaws of the chuck, so I can then turn this whole thing over. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean up this base here and then start forming the actual base. So again, try and keep it as tall and as wide as possibly can. Put speed on it now. I've just finished doing a bit of sanding here and made a bit of a design on the bottom so it isn't just bland. I'm just starting to work on this profile now, and I've put a little lip here, a little shadow line, and a straight angle piece there to come out of a curve that's going to go to a bead that's here. So we've got a bead on the edge here, as you can see there on the edge you've got a bead, shadow line, an angle, and a curve that's going to come out to another bead here. Then that's going to come out to the rest of the bowl shape. Okay, so a little bit further on now. Again, you can see I've done this first bead in there, the fold coming out. Then this whole thing is going to come out. Try and get this area here almost finished, so that when I reverse it I don't need to worry about getting all the. So I'm just going to finish the big bowl now, and it is going to be big. It's like a platter on a stand almost. Here's what it's going to be. There we go. And I'm just going to hollow that out now. There's a lot less mass there now, so I can go a little bit faster. I've taken the weight off because there's not as much wood here now. I've taken the eccentricity away. It is still eccentric though. sharpen this tool. Torque is so hard, it's like turning concrete. See how easy the cut was coming the other way? I've actually already blunted this tool. Just use this little skew just to make a bead on the end here and to cut in here to give this little bead effect. So there's a little lip and a bead, and that runs down into the edge. Here we are, a week from that last shot. It's been a hectic week at work, and you can see I've done a bit more on the bowl now. I've got the wall thickness at the side here the way I want it to be, and I've just got to carry on hollowing out now. I'm almost to depth, not quite, it needs a little bit more, and it'll get a little bit deeper towards the centre. I'm going to make a nice curve in there. I just need to get the bulk of this out. To get a little bit too far over there, so I just need to move the rest. With this you really do pay attention to switching off before you move the rest. Okay, that's got it. As I'm cutting along the base, I've turned the tool so that I've got the wing cut in. Just off centre from the tip onto the wing there. Again, that's not the height of the finished surface, it's a bit further down from that. But that's just practicing in this grain environment here where we've got cross grain and long grain cuts happening to find out what the finish is going to be like. So just practice your finish before you get to the surface you need. Just more of that. So a bit further on now. Just let you see the shape of the bowl. You can see I've not finished. This is still lots of ridges in here. Just going to do a planing cut across that when I get down to the right thickness, because I want it to be somewhere around the wall thickness, which is that, but not, maybe doesn't have to quite be that thin on the base, but it's so solid, this oak, that it doesn't need to be, don't need to worry about thinness. It's too strong inside. So my next task now is in this corner where I've got a bit of a lip, and I need to take that lip out and get a smooth transition from the wall into the base. So that's what I'm going to do next. I've taken the centre noggin right down, not completely out yet. I've taken it down. Just going to move my rest now. place, make sure that's okay, just check it's not catching. Spin it up. As I get into the corner where I get to the surface that I want, I'll slow the cut down so I'm taking less material away. The shavings get finer. And as I go into the corner there, I'm on the sidewall now, still cutting, and I turn as I come across the surface. Remember, this isn't the surface yet, I'm nowhere near thin enough yet down there. Okay, so I've done a final cut on here now. It's not too bad. You can still feel the grain though, because it's very hard, and as you cut across it, there's certain areas that go very smooth, and there's certain areas of cross grain here where you can feel it. So what I've done is I've got one of these tools that spins by itself, and I'm just using that gently across the surface to get rid of any final marks that are left from the tooling. Yeah. So things like this mark here is, you know, even though it's being really gentle, there was still some fibres that tore a little bit here. I think it's a function of the fact that it's so dry. Okay, so I've now flattened the base, sanded it up to 600 grit, so it's got a nice shine on it. So just to oil it now, really, and I'll use the lemon oil again. So here it is.